Hello everyone, I am going to be doing a horror movie review today, and this horror movie is one that is very special and close to my heart, and I just seen it yesterday, and that was Annabelle Creation. Now, I'm sure my subscribers of a long time know the reason why I am so attached to the Annabelle story. I worked at a haunted house 3 years ago, and I went to the first Annabelle movie premiere dressed as her, and I got to freak people out at the movie theater, and it was awesome. And I'm bringing her back this year at the new haunt that I'm working at, and I'm pretty excited. I have a whole doll room there, and I'm sure my subscribers are tired of hearing me say that, but I'm just so excited and happy about it that I have to keep sharing it with you guys. I wanted to do a little review on this movie, and I just went to go see it yesterday. So yeah, I do want to mention that I will be throwing in some spoilers in here, so if you haven't seen the movie, I'd go ahead and click out of this video now because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, so you've been fair warned. And I also want to say that I'm not the best at movie reviews. Some people don't like my reviews, and it's perfectly fine. I just want to share my opinion and my thoughts on the movie. And also, if you hear the washer, I'm sorry. Nothing I can do about it. So the first thing I want to say is that this movie gave me so many different ideas for my character at the haunt and what I can do to scare people, and I really liked that. And I just loved how David Sandberg was the guy that actually directed this movie. And for those of you who do not know, he was actually the guy that created the Lights Out short horror film, and who also directed the movie Lights Out that came out in movie theaters. So he's one of my biggest inspirations. He's actually who inspired me to make my own short horror films, and it's just awesome that his movie started out on YouTube, and like now he's an actual movie director, and he's directed movies that are in movie theaters. Like, that's just so awesome to me, and I was there from the start. Like, I was always a fan of his, so I just think that that's awesome, and I had to throw that in there. It was kind of like the creation of her and how she kind of came to be. And at first, you know, I thought, I don't see how they're going to be able to tie this movie into the first one, because the first one was like a completely different story than like how she was created, whatever. So I honestly at first did not think that they were going to be able to pull that off. At first I thought that they should have made like the creation the first one, and then the first one the second one, just because I thought that that would have made more sense. But I was actually really surprised. I thought that it was a very clever way of them going about it, and I really liked how they kind of tied the two together and made them fit in with each other. But I like how in the actual Annabelle story, at first, the girl, I think her name was like Donna or something like that, her and her friend believed that it was the spirit of a little girl that was attached to the doll, because at first, you know, it was like a playful spirit, and then it kind of grew to be something more evil, and they found out that it was actually a demonic entity that was attaching itself to the doll, or that was using the doll to try and manipulate them into thinking that it was just a little girl. So I liked how in the second Annabelle movie they kind of stuck with that storyline, if you think about it, because the little girl, her name was Annabelle, and she got killed by the car. You know, at first her parents believed, you know, that was her spirit in that doll, and then they started to realize that it was something more evil and more demonic, just pretending to be their little girl to manipulate them and to get them to put their trust in it. So I liked how they kind of kept that along with the original Annabelle story. I also noticed that they kept the little parchment paper thing in there, which I thought was so cool. Like, whenever I seen that, I was like flipping out in my head. I was like, oh my god, they stuck to the actual Annabelle story. I don't know, I thought that that was so cool that they kept that in there. I was also literally flipping out and like hitting my mom, who was in the seat beside me, when at the end they pulled out the Raggedy Ann doll, because I know some people actually don't know that this was based on a true story, and that it wasn't just some movie that they made up, you know, like it was actually based on a true story. The actual doll was a Raggedy Ann doll. And I don't think most people know that, but whenever I seen it, being the big horror movie lover and the Annabelle freak that I am, I was flipping out. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that they threw that in there. So I really liked how they did that, and they kind of kept the Raggedy Ann in the movie, because In the first one, I was a wee bit disappointed that they didn't throw in, I mean, there was a Raggedy Ann doll in one of the, it was like an Easter egg in the background. They didn't actually show like a Raggedy Ann doll like they did in this one, and I really liked how they did that. I remembered when I was a little girl, I had a Raggedy Ann doll, and my parents would tell me the story about this haunted doll that Ed and Lorraine Warren had, and I was honestly so scared of my Raggedy Ann doll after that. Like, I thought that it was possessed and it was haunted, and I would throw it outside, and then my mom would put it back in my room and stuff. I was like, oh my god, you should have messed with me, because if I had a kid, that's totally what I would be doing to my kid. Yeah, and now it's just crazy because I'm playing her in a haunted house. How I was mentioning the guy that directed it was the guy that did Lights Out, whatever. The part where the demon's eyes were kind of like glowing, that part reminded me of the movie Lights Out with Diana and how her eyes would glow in the darkness. And it's cool that he kind of added a little touch of that in there because that's where he kind of started out. So, also, the glowing eyes kind of ties in with my room at the haunt as well, because before I even seen this movie, I had this plan to make my baby doll's eyes glow in a black light. And so in my room so far, their eyes glow. And when I seen that and I noticed that, I was like, yay, it all ties in together. My dad also mentioned to me that there was a cabinet in one part of the movie that looked like the cabinet that they had in The Conjuring. Now, I don't know how true that is, but my dad seen it. I didn't actually notice it at first, but my dad told me that he thought that he seen the actual cabinet that was in The Conjuring movie. I don't know how true that is, but if you've seen it too, feel free to leave me a comment and let me know, so that way we don't think that we're crazy or anything. But I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, because a lot of these horror movies like to throw in little Easter eggs, and I kind of like that. It makes it fun for like the fans to try and find them. So, getting to the parts of this movie that freaked me out. Okay, the part where the little girl first goes into the room, where she found the little pieces of paper on the floor. So the part when she goes in there and she turns around, she closes the door and it keeps coming open. And then all of a sudden, Annabelle is underneath that sheet that she threw on top of her, and she starts walking behind her. That part creeped me out because that Annabelle doll that they use in that movie, she is like really tall and just a ginormous freaking doll. So just like picturing having a doll like that and then it getting up and walking on its own just freaks me out. And also the part where the little girl's like sitting there tapping on the window and she goes over towards her and she's like,
will you help me? And she's like, what do you... Your soul! I
was like, yes, I love that part. It had kind of like a Conjuring vibe to it, and I kind of liked that because I really enjoyed the Conjuring movie, and that's kind of where Annabelle kind of got her movie start. And that freaking demon, dude. I love how they kept that demon in there because the demon in the first one scared the shit out of me. Like, that was literally the one time I can ever say that in a movie theater I screamed. Not in this one, but in the first one. Like, I literally screamed when that demon came up the stairs. So I liked how they kept the demon because he was just freaky as all hell. Also, the part in the movie where the little girl shoots that little, like, ball gun thing and it hits Annabelle in the head and then, like, she turns back around and that doll's just like... Like, that part creeped me out too. And actually today I was sitting in my room and I was praying before I did anything and I looked over. And my doll Sybil, which I got from the antique store, she's been in a few of my videos. She sits back here. I looked, and her eyes were pointed directly at me. She was staring directly at me, and this happened right after I had seen the Annabelle movie. But yeah, it was really, really good, and I actually kind of liked it better than the first movie. Yeah, I highly recommend it to all my fellow horror movie lovers. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. So yeah, that was my little Annabelle Creation horror movie review. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a big ol' thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already and become a morbid maniac. And also leave me a comment if you have seen Annabelle and what your thoughts are on it. And I will see you guys in my next video.